All right, as people continue to join, I'm just going to start with a few brief housekeeping remarks from our end. So, all right, my name is Claire Ladd, and I am the Programs and Services Manager at the Mass Nonprofit Network, MNN. Thank you so much for joining us today for this webinar. And just a few quick items before we dig into the content. The recording and slides from today's program will be emailed to you following the webinar. I think it'll probably be tomorrow that email goes out, so please keep an eye out for that. And during the webinar, if you have any questions for the presenters, you can submit them via the Q&A function, and there will be time for questions at the end. If you have any logistical questions or questions about MNN, you can also just drop those in the chat and I can respond to those. And also, just to give a little background about us here at MNN, our three goals are to strengthen the nonprofit sector through advocacy, public awareness of our sector, and capacity building services. So as part of those capacity building efforts, we offer these regular webinars in partnership with our affiliate members. Please stay tuned for future topics and let us know if there's any topics you'd like to see. Our efforts are made possible by our more than 600 member organizations. To those of you who are members, thank you so much for your partnership. But anyone who has not yet joined the network but would like to take advantage of all the member benefits, such as networking opportunities, cost savings, please visit massnonprofitnet.org/join. All right, today's webinar is titled Engagement is the Strategy, 6 Research-Backed Drivers to Build Resilient Nonprofit Teams. It'll be presented by Katie Comtois and Alyssa Farber of Positively Partners. So I will hand it over to the Positively Partners team to get started.
Good afternoon, everybody. Claire, thank you so much. We are delighted to be here. My name is Alyssa Farber. I am a vice president with Positively Partners, and I am delighted to have my colleague and our principal consultant, Katie Comtois, as our driver for today's session. We are thrilled to be here with you and look forward to an engaging time together. Positively Partners is a human resources consulting firm. We have been working together over the last 10 years, and our mission is to help nonprofit organizations build thriving, legally compliant, and high-performing workplaces. The work that we do is grounded in tenets of positive psychology, and we exist to help you in the incredible work that you do to ensure that your workplaces are such where your employees can thrive at every level of the organization. We are ourselves very proud members of the Mass Nonprofit Network and are really happy to be here with all of you today. We were born in Boston almost 10 years ago and have had the real pleasure of working potentially with many of you who I'm talking to today and many other organizations across the state. And we want to say thank you to you for all the incredible work that you're doing, particularly in uncertain and dangerous times like these. Your work continues to inspire us, and we're really excited at the opportunity to help you in the work that you do every day to lead your teams. I'm going to say a couple of quick things about who we are and what we do from a service level perspective, and then I'm really delighted to pass the mic to Katie. Our primary services include outsourced HR, which we call Positively HR. It's a team-based approach to human resources, and through that model, we deliver day-to-day and strategic supports to you as an organization. We also partner with organizations on a series of consulting projects, inclusive of organizational development and design, expert training, and executive and professional search. And one note I'll make before handing it over to Katie is that we are really proud partners of the Commonwealth Corporation as part of their Workforce Training Express program. And through this program, many of you on this webinar today may in fact be eligible to receive funding for training provided by partners like us and many other incredible providers across the state to help support up to $15,000 of incredible, very values aligned to the moment training for organizations in Massachusetts that pay into retirement. So on this slide, which you'll have an opportunity to see at the end of the presentation as our follow-up, there's some more information regarding how to determine your eligibility and how to apply. We'd be delighted to partner with you in offering training for your teams through this program. And at the end of our presentation, you'll see a QR code that you can use as a way to get in touch with me for any questions or follow-ups you may need as you think about training for your teams in this moment in time. Thank you again so much. And Katie, I'm delighted to pass the mic to you.
Thank you so much, Alyssa. Welcome, everyone. As Alyssa said, my name is Katie Comtois, pronouns she, her, and I'm a principal consultant at Positively Partners. My work is about helping organizations turn research into practical strategies that strengthen both employee well-being and performance. I know how hard it is to carve out time to come and attend to something like this. So thank you all so much for being here. So here's the reality. Our sector is stretched super thin. Demands are rising, resources are shrinking, and the pace of change never seems to slow down. For many of us, it feels like we're running a marathon at a sprint pace. And that's why today's conversation matters. Engagement isn't a nice to have, it's a strategy. It's what helps teams stay resilient, focused, even in this moment. So let's start with a warm-up question. Let's start with you. In just a few words, what makes you feel most engaged at work? I'd like for you to reflect on that for a moment, and then go ahead and drop your answer in the chat. Alyssa, would you mind reading a few answers out loud once folks have had an
Yes,
opportunity to drop their answers in the chat?
I am seeing in-person opportunities, program development, jiving with my coworkers, linking my work to my mission,
Yeah,
positive connections with other staff and community, connection to the mission. So double clicking there,
yeah.
engaging with community members, double clicking there, seeing an impact for my efforts and feeling appreciated. So I'm
Mm,
seeing a lot about kind of mission alignment, but also personal fulfillment, working as a team to get it done, cultural events, and cross-departmental collaboration.
amazing. Thank you, Alyssa. And not at all surprising, your responses track with what it is that we see across the board and what the research on both well-being as well as engagement suggests. So when we feel truly engaged in our work, it's powerful. We feel energized, we feel proud, and we're so absorbed in the work that time almost disappears, regardless of the noise that we're experiencing outside of work. Here's a simple truth. We don't give our best because we have to. We give our best when we believe that the work that we're doing matters and when we know we matter in the work that we're doing. And that's why this conversation is so important. Engagement is not about squeezing more effort out of people. It's about unlocking energy and unlocking commitment in a way that's sustainable for our workforce. When we treat engagement as a strategy, it shifts how we lead ourselves and how we lead our teams. The engagement strategy is not an HR program. It's not an annual survey. It's how we strengthen our teams through our behavior in the midst of challenge. So today I'm going to walk you through 6 research-backed drivers that make the biggest difference in how engaged our teams are. And more importantly, I'm going to show you how to turn those drivers into small practical actions that you can start using immediately. By the end, I hope you'll see that engagement isn't about rolling out some big or expensive program. It's in your everyday leadership behaviors. And right now, nonprofits are operating in a perfect storm of sorts. Rapid change, high demand, and fewer resources. One of the most powerful levers that you can pull as a leader in this environment is fostering real engagement on your team. Engagement is not about people being happy all the time. Happiness is like the weather. It comes and it goes. It's about your people choosing to bring their best ideas and their best energy to the table day after day. When engagement is high, turnover drops, collaboration rises, and resilience grows. People often confuse busyness with engagement. Working long hours, saying yes to everything, staying cheerful on the surface, that's not engagement. Real engagement is different. It's when people feel energized, connected, and purposeful. They're using their strengths, they're growing, and they're investing their whole selves in the work. Engagement isn't about draining yourself dry. It's about feeling fueled because the work matters and because you matter in the work. So busyness drains us while engagement fuels us. And what creates that fuel? That's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the 6 key drivers that creates that fuel. Let's start with the first one. Driver number 1, mission alignment. We heard this a couple of times in the chat during our warm-up. Mission alignment is the heartbeat of nonprofit work. Purpose fuels performance. When people see the direct link between their daily tasks and the organization's mission, they show up with more energy and commitment. And when that clicks, when you're able to make that connection, it feels like what I do here matters. That sense of meaning is one of the strongest drivers of sustained engagement. Take the grants manager who spends hours buried in spreadsheets. On the surface, it's just data. But when they see how that work secures funding that keeps programs running for families, it shifts. Suddenly, my work isn't just paperwork. It's mission impact. That's mission alignment. So what can you do as a leader? Make the line of sight explicit for your people. Say or call out, here's how your project moved the needle for our community. Share stories. Bring the statistics to life. Client stories, donor feedback, partner wins. These help your people to actively align what they do day in and day out to something larger than themselves. Ask your staff directly, what part of our mission lights you up? and then connect their work to that spark whenever possible. When people see the meaning in their work, their commitment to the work deepens. And when their commitment deepens, so does their impact. Driver 2, leadership and communication. Communication sets the tone for everything else. And trust is what drives engagement. When leaders are transparent and consistent, people feel safe and steady. And when trust is there, it feels like I know what's going on and I trust who's leading. That kind of clarity is non-negotiable. Think about a program coordinator who hears directly from their director, not just what is changing within the organization or with their program, but why it's changing. That kind of honest communication builds trust. And trust keeps people going, even when the road ahead feels uncertain. So what does this look like in practice in the real world? Communicate honestly and with purpose. In uncertain times, truth beats polish every time. Even saying, here's what I know and here's what I don't know, builds trust. Make your one-on-ones count. Ask simple weekly questions like, what's one thing that's getting in your way? And what's one thing that you need from me? Don't fake certainty. You don't need all the answers. Saying, I don't know yet, but I'll find out, or we'll find out together, creates more psychological safety than pretending or making up an answer or saying, I can't tell you that. When leaders lead with clarity and honesty, people don't just comply, they commit. You're not going to be able to be transparent about everything, but a commitment to transparency when you can say a thing builds trust. Driver 3, growth and development. Growth fuels hope. When people see a path to learn and develop, they show up more motivated and more persistent. From their perspective, it feels like they're being invested in. When my skills are growing at my job, I'm not stuck. I know that I have a future here. Growth doesn't have to mean big promotions or costly trainings. It can be small and frequent. So picture a program assistant who's never had direct exposure to funders, for example. You invite her to shadow a grant check-in meeting or give her a stretch piece of a proposal project. Suddenly, she sees her work in a new way. She's not just playing a supportive role. She is someone contributing to the mission. She is growing and evolving with the organization. And here's the key. Please don't assume that you know what growth looks like for anyone else. Ask them directly. How do you want to grow this year? What skills do you want to build? And how can I help? The research couldn't be more clear on this. People grow faster, perform better, and feel more engaged when they build on their strengths. When they can stretch into new opportunities. And we let them help to shape their own growth path. Growth isn't extra. It's what keeps people hopeful and invested. Driver 4, work environment and well-being. A healthy work environment means that people feel supported and safe to ask for what they need. Without that safety, people burn out. Think about that high performer on your team, the one who always raises their hand, always delivers, always pushes harder. On the outside, they look like the picture of engagement. But underneath, they may be running on empty. If nothing changes, that drive will tip into burnout. And burnout shuts engagement down fast. That's why a healthy environment matters. When it's there, it feels like I can breathe here. I can do my job without breaking. I can ask for help when I need it. So what can you do as a leader? First and foremost, model boundaries. I like to say, leave loudly. Send a note. I'm logging off now. I'll be back tomorrow. And then log off. You can normalize breaks. In addition to encouraging folks to take time off, we can do it even more regularly than that. Try opening a staff meeting with a 1-minute breathing pause. Encourage breaks in the day. Encourage folks to walk away from their computers for a moment. And then, of course, whenever possible, help to lighten the load. If someone's feeling overwhelmed with the sheer amount of work, ask, what's one small change that would make your workload feel more manageable? Well-being isn't a perk. It's the foundation for performance and sustainable engagement. Number 5, recognition and appreciation. We heard about this in the warm-up as well. Recognition is a spotlight. It reminds people that they matter. When people feel seen, they give more energy and effort. Think about a case manager carrying a really heavy caseload. A quick, specific acknowledgement, the way you supported that family through their housing crisis showed so much care. And it ensured that they could access the resources they needed right away. Thank you. That recognition could be the thing that carries that case manager through another hard week. So what can you do as a leader? Keep recognition specific and timely. Don't just give a great job, but be clear about what mattered and the impact it had. Again, bringing it back to mission whenever possible. Build small rituals. A lot of teams that we work with start their staff meetings with shout outs. Balance feedback. Follow a simple 3-to-1 rule. For every piece of constructive feedback that you give to a colleague or you give to a staff member, try to balance that out over time with 3 positive pieces of feedback. We're wired to go negative, right? We attach ourselves to constructive feedback, and there's so much power in trying to counterbalance that bias with positive feedback, with an acknowledgement of what we're doing well and why the work that we're doing matters. So remember the 3-to-1 rule. 3 pieces of positive feedback or appreciative feedback for every 1 piece of constructive feedback. Recognition isn't fluffy. It's what keeps people going. And finally, driver 6, inclusion and belonging. When people feel like they belong, they tend to stay. They speak up. They contribute more freely. And belonging doesn't just boost engagement, it builds resilience over time. And it's that resilience collectively that's going to get us through this unprecedented time in our sector. So what can you do as a leader to foster inclusion and belonging on the daily? First, invite voices. In team meetings, ask, who haven't we heard from yet? You can rotate roles, share facilitation or note-taking, so power isn't concentrated to one or a small few. Build small rituals. Again, start team meetings with a quick check-in. What's one word for how you're showing up today? That's my favorite check-in question. Because belonging isn't just about being included per se, it's also about being welcomed, feeling heard, and feeling valued for exactly who you are and for exactly how you're showing up. So we just ran through a lot, all right? But here's the through line. Engagement isn't a big, splashy initiative. It's built moment by moment through small, consistent behaviors. Connecting back to mission, communicating openly and transparently, creating hope through growth opportunities, protecting well-being, recognizing contributions, and fostering a sense of belonging and inclusion. And the best part is that every one of these is within your control as a leader. Engagement is the lever that you can pull to turn uncertainty into resilience. One team, one choice, one moment at a time. And you don't have to do all of this at once. I'm not suggesting that you do that. That would be a really full-time job in and of itself. But before we close, I do want you to take a minute, reflect, and jot this down. Which one of these drivers do you want to focus on with your team? And then what's one action you can take in the next week to strengthen that driver? You don't have to do it perfectly. You just have to start. And every small step that you take builds trust, connection, and resilience for your team, and therefore for your organization. All right. Plenty of time to hear from you all. I'd love to open it up to questions. And if we have some in the chat, Claire or Alyssa, it would be awesome if you could read those out.
Just as a reminder, everybody, you can put these in the chat or in the Q&A box.
Oh, Q&A box. Sorry about that. That's right. I forgot about that feature. Questions? Or even better, I would love to. I'm a coach. I'm a executive coach and a leadership coach. I would love to hear what's one thing that you learned today that you're going to try with your team. That would be awesome too.
As a question came in from an attendee, how can managers realistically model healthy boundaries in workplaces where heavy workloads are unavoidable at the moment?
Find the moment, right? So, as leaders, it is incumbent upon us to model healthy behaviors in service of not only our own well-being, but the well-being of the system. And we can start small. So that's one of the recommendations that I made as a small action is taking, 1 minute at the top of your staff meetings, for example, to simply be present and breathe. We have a client that recently implemented this practice. At the top of a staff meeting, they're doing like box breathing together as a team, creating that pause between the back to back to back calls and commitments. And that in and of itself is a boundary. Protecting 60 seconds to breathe in for 4 seconds, hold your breath for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds, hold the exhale for 4 seconds, rinse and repeat for 60 seconds. That in and of itself is modeling healthy boundaries in service of your well-being. We have 60 seconds at the top of our calls. So start small. I think that's the takeaway across the board.
Thank you. Another question came in. Can you talk about how to modify some of these strategies for teams that do meet primarily online?
Yeah, so actually, it's interesting you asked that question. At our organization, we meet exclusively online. And all of these strategies were crafted through that lens. So I'd love to hear more, I guess, a follow-up question from the person who posed the question. If you want to come off of mute or can they? I don't even know. But if there's a follow-up question, is there any particular strategy that doesn't feel possible online versus in person? We look back, all of these can be tackled, I believe, through modeling behavior, which doesn't necessarily isn't in-person specific, and also through conversation and ritual and how we communicate with each other and how we work together as teams.
Katie, to uplift that, someone in the
Please.
chat asked the question about what are some ways you would recommend improving communication within an organization writ large?
Yeah, well, communication starts from the top, right? And organizational norms around communication are modeled from the top, the people with the most power. So, in a perfect world, our leaders will be modeling transparent and direct and candid, empathic and compassionate communication on the regular. In absence of that, you have control over how you're choosing to communicate with important stakeholders with whom you partner and on your teams. So I would say twofold: be a model for what great communication looks like. Lean into transparency. Say what you know if you're at liberty to do so. Say you don't know or cannot share when necessary. And advocate for your leadership team to do the same. I'm not suggesting that any or all of us have power to shift how our executive teams work, right? But if you are someone with power within your organization, this is where leadership begins, right? It's like, first and foremost, the only way to build trust on your teams is to communicate with transparency. Full stop. So Lead with transparency, model what good communication looks like, and advocate for your colleagues and your leadership to do the same. That's what I would say. You got to focus on what you can control.
Katie, Andy Doan in the chat was saying that they use mission moments or stories at the start of each staff meeting
Love it.
as a reminder to folks about why we do what we do.
Love it.
Thanks,
I
Andy.
love mission moments. It's fabulous. And I would say also for managers who are in one-on-ones on a regular basis with their direct reports to kick off their one-on-ones in the same vein, to call out specific work that they're doing that aligns with mission impact. It's wonderful. What other inquiries or questions or commitments folks are going to make in terms of what they're going to do differently once we close today?
Katie, another question just came in,
Yeah.
which is somebody really appreciated the suggestion about asking a team member how they want to grow rather than having the manager suggest it. And then the question reads, I struggle with the communication sharing. I try to be really transparent and share updates, but I don't feel that my employees share their own updates. I have to push really hard to get team members to share information with the rest of the team or to ask advice.
Yeah. And that's complex. There can be so many reasons for that resistance, and without having any insight into how the organization's culture is, or, any insight into, the various like personality differences on the team and that sort of thing, I would say if we are focusing on the things that we can control, first, it sounds like you are modeling what transparent communication looks like. So that's where we have to start, right? We have to start with modeling the behavior that we are hoping to normalize on our own teams. And then there is an opportunity in those one-on-one interactions with our team members to further develop trust, in that setting expectations for those one-on-one touch points together by letting folks know that those one-on-ones are reserved for them to talk through anything that they need to talk through personally or professionally or whatnot, as well as and share feedback, right? So what we recommend at Positively Partners is when you're thinking about the one-on-ones that you are having on a regular basis with your direct reports, break that time, whether it be 30 minutes or 60 minutes or anywhere in between, break that time up into 3 chunks. So the first chunk is for the employee to talk about anything that they want to talk about. The second chunk is for us as managers to provide feedback, both appreciative and constructive, to the employee, and also to cover any sort of notes that we need to talk through, pragmatically to keep the work moving forward. And then the third chunk of time is really where the magic happens. This is where, as a manager, I ask my direct report, what are your top priorities for this week? Tell me what it is you're going to be focusing on this week. And what is it that I can do to eliminate any roadblocks? How can I support that work? What you're doing here is you are leaning into the reality that your employee is living, helping to sort of focus their priorities for the week, regardless of what noise is happening. And you're showing that you are invested in their success week over week over week. And over time, being, again, consistent. Another piece of that communication, right, is being consistent in it. Over time, that's what builds the trust that hopefully your team members will eventually open up willingly, knowing that you have their back and knowing that you are there to support them week over week over week. That would be my behavioral recommendation. Frame up your one-on-ones so that your team members have an opportunity to talk about whatever they need or want to talk about. You have an opportunity to provide feedback, talk about anything else in terms of project updates or what's going on the organizational level, sharing information that you're getting from above you. And then third, focus on what the priorities are for the week and offer your support. Ask how you can help, and then, of course, follow through and do the thing. I hope that's helpful. Any other questions? Well, thank you all so much for your time and attention to talk about the 6 drivers, what we know to be true about what drives true engagement for nonprofit teams. I'm going to pass the mic back over to Alyssa to close us out.
Wonderful. Thank you, Katie. And thank you, everyone, so much for your time and caring participation today. If you'd like to learn more, hear more about our work, talk to Katie, you have a QR code that you can scan with your phone as an easy way to get in touch with us. There's an opportunity to get a sneak peek of an upcoming employee engagement survey that we are piloting this coming season. We would love to talk to you about the workforce training grant programs and assess ways we might support your training needs over this coming year, or other ways that we can help support your team from an HR perspective at this critical time. We are really grateful for the opportunity to learn with you and learn alongside you, and are here and ready for any ways that we can be part of your team in this year ahead. So please take a minute, scan the code, find us, and thank you all so much. We'll stick around the last couple of minutes in case anybody has any further questions, but we wish you a really great, safe day. And thanks again for your time this afternoon, and Claire, to you and the MNN team for this opportunity.
Yes, and thank you, Katie and Alyssa, for providing this great webinar. And once again, I will be sending out the slides and reporting tomorrow, most likely. So just keep an eye out for that, and then you can take a look at everything again. And yeah, wishing everyone a great rest of your day.
Thank you all.